welcome to the full strawberry moon reading. Today we are going to be delving into an exploration of what might be kind of blocking the sweetness of life that we're kind of experimenting with and playing with right now. Now, for where I am, the reason why this new moon is the strawberry moon is because this is the time when all of the wild strawberries are nicely ripened and ready to be taken in and eaten, which is really interesting because I was out for a walk this morning and I did find big strawberries all along the road, and unfortunately because they're all along the road, with all the exhaust and everything, those would not be the strawberries that I would want to pick and eat. And so made me think back to when I was young. And this time of the year, I would go out and I would go to the fields and pick strawberries and everything like that. So it was very nostalgic for me to be able to reconnect with that idea of the strawberry moon. Now, the strawberry moon is in Capricorn today, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Now, another very interesting thing about this particular full moon is that it is also the beginning of Mercury retrograde. So I thought that was a really interesting extra kind of flavor to this full moon reading that we're having. And so right now we're looking at the full moon themes, which is focusing on clearing what may be blocking the flow of sweetness into our lives. And then Capricorn will add to this idea of themes emerging around structures, long-term visions. And the moon might be asking us at this point to explore our foundations and the commitments we have to the path that we're walking. And as I said, along with the idea of Mercury retrograde, it brings in this kind of double themed of revising and reviewing that is going to be taking place right now. This Mercury retrograde, a lot of times people talk about Mercury retrograde being issues to communication and a lot of things kind of going wrong. I kind of see it, especially with this moon, as it's an inward introspection period that we're being asked to sit with. And so we're being really pulled towards inner dialogue and the potential to transform our doubts into clarity during this period. Now, the full moon is asking us to take heed and failing to take like a disciplined or very limiting view. And especially with Mercury retrograde, it has the potential to kind of muddy the waters. So what we're being asked is to kind of sit with this and really look at like, where are we having like these very limited views? Where are we having these like ideas that something is needing to be changed? So the questions, so first we're going to shuffle our cards. Faller. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. So our questions for this reading, the first one is, what might be blocking the flow of sweetness in our lives? And here we have the Four of Coins. Now the Four of Coins is a very interesting one to have when we're looking at themes of blocking flow, because the squirrel here, as you can see, is hoarding all of the nuts and everything into this little net that they've created down here on the bottom of the branch. And so when sweetness kind of starts to flow, there's this idea that I have to hold it, I have to hoard it, I have to take it. I can't be in the flow of sweetness in the moment. I have to actually do something else so that I can earn this sweetness, so that I can put it aside for later. And the thing is the more that we embrace, the more we engage with this sweeter side of life, the more the universe will be, oh, that's what you want? Let me give you some more. Let me give you some more. But if we're hoarding it away and not actually engaging with it, not actually enjoying it, then really it becomes more of a task. The idea of gathering this sweetness becomes more of a drudgery, something that we tell ourselves we will enjoy later, and later never comes, because when later does arrive, we have another reason to push it off to later and to later and to later, right? It's this idea that tomorrow never comes. We're always in this perpetual today. And so unless we understand that the sweetness of life, the joy of life, the pleasure of life only lives and is fully available when in that moment. That's when we really start to unlock the blocks that we have towards that and really start to embrace and find ways to bring joy, to bring sweetness, to bring more into our lives. So the next question that we have is, what long-term goals are ready to be transformed? And sometimes, you know, that sweetness that we're hoarding is based on a long-term goal where, oh, I have to get to this point before I can enjoy this, this idea of you can play later and you have to earn it and everything. And so when we're looking at long-term goals that are ready to be transformed, maybe sometimes that's the idea of it too, is that what is the long-term goal and how does the long-term goal need to be transformed in order to incorporate this idea of pleasure, of joy, of wonderfulness. And here we have the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords coming in right after the Four of Coins is really interesting because the Four is saying we need to gather, we need to hold, we need to keep what we have so that we're prepared. And the Five of Swords comes in and starts asking questions about, like, what is it that in this long-term goal that you're fighting for, right? What is it that is so important to you? How far are you willing to go in order to achieve this goal? What are you willing to sacrifice? And I say that because when you look at this guy here and how he's, sorry, it's, I don't have very good lighting here, how he's holding the sword, right? He's holding the blade of it. And if somebody came up behind him and grabbed that sword out of his hand, his fingers are gone. So he's sacrificed something. But he looks like he's ready to fight. And so it's interesting that, you know, the idea is I'm ready to fight for what it is, but instead of holding your weapon in a way that you can use it, you're holding it in a way that you're going to lose something. And so the question kind of becomes, what is this long-term goal that you made now causing you to lose, right? What is it that you're almost hard-headedly going towards, right? Because there's this idea that I set this goal and I'm going to see it through to the end no matter the cost. And maybe the cost is the goal is done, right? Even if I've never achieved it, maybe the purpose of the goal has run its course and it's time to let it go. Because if you're going through life with this face here, then there's a good chance that there is no joy and there is no pleasure going on in your life either. And so it's time to really start to kind of shift and really look at what is the cost of fulfilling these long-term goals. And that brings us to the last question of what inner limitations need to be released. And this is kind of bringing that Mercury retrograde idea into, you know, the introspection and looking at, you know, what are the inner limitations? What are the different barriers that we've put around ourselves that are keeping us kind of trapped in this situation? And here we have the King of Cups. And the King of Cups is coming in and saying, you know, you've done a lot of work already. You have gone through to find your strengths, to find your communities, and now it's time to trust that that's where you're at and that's what needs to be happening. And the King of Cups is very much that mature, emotional understanding, right? He's very intuitive and trusts the intuitive hits that he gets, because not only does he trust his intuitive hits, but he understands how they work in the larger world. And so as he's going around, he knows when to deviate from the route. He knows when to follow. He also knows how to flow around the obstacles. So when we're looking at reshaping and releasing and letting go of these limiting ideas, the King of Cups comes in to say, you know, just because there's an obstacle in front of you, remember that there is a way to flow around it. There's no need to have to find the dynamite to blow the thing up out of the water. Look for where the cracks are. Look for where the ways are through that you may have never thought of before. And because of the ability that the King of Cups has for creative problem solving, he knows how to find those little loopholes. He knows how to find those way through. And that's what he's asking you to pay attention to, is where are you finding the current of your life is taking you, and how can you flow with that instead of fighting it? And so coming right after the Five of Swords is really telling, because what he's saying is you need to stop constantly fighting, right? You're not a salmon that needs to go upstream. You are a person that needs to follow your flow. And the more that you can lean into that, the more that you can embrace that, the better it's going to be for you in the long run. And as I said, we had a faller that fell from the deck when I was shuffling it. And this is just a bit of an added message. And when I look at fallers, I see them as energy or thoughts or mindsets that need to be released, right? They're dropping away. And I think that's perfect for the Eight of Swords, because the Eight of Swords is saying, you know, the biggest barrier that you might be facing right now between you and the full sweetness, the full enjoyment of life around you are your fears, right? Your fears, your limitations, your resistance. These are all the things that are the blocks that you need to look at and spend time with and really engage with to find out how can you let them go? How can you move through them and allow them to fall away from you? Because these are just added weights. They're just added pressure. They're just added stress that is no longer needed. They serve no purpose. And so right now you're really being asked to lean into this idea that there is something for you that lies beyond what you have right now. And as long as you allow yourself to remain caged in this fear, in this resistance, then the sweetness is just going to continue to flow by you. So I think one of the interesting things is we have two swords that have come up. And also, like with the Five of Swords leading into the Eight of Swords, it means as long as you can let go of that need to fight, or to kind of push your way through. Because maybe what the Five of Swords is telling you is that you created a story when you made this commitment to this long-term goal, and now it's time to rewrite the story. And nothing says that rewriting stories is outside of our purview. So it's really important to remember that, and to know that the swords are contained by water and by earth. So there is a solid containment, even though the water cards are very fluid and they have no container. The earth creates the container that allows for there to be softness along with those swords. So this is a really interesting look at our full moon for June. And I hope that, you know, something in this reading kind of had you pause long enough and go, I can see myself in that. The strawberry moon, again, is just something that is asking you to tune into the sweetness that's around you, and to remember that even though there is this idea of structure around Capricorn and Saturn, that structure, when it becomes a prison, is there's no joy, there's no pleasure, right? There are structures that we, like a playground is a structure, but it's all about joy, it's all about fun, it's all about it lightening us. And so maybe the question that you're being asked to sit with is, how can you turn whatever prison you find yourself in right now into a playground? So think about that question, and I look forward to seeing you again at the new moon. Until then, take care, and I will see you around the webs.